Line 6.
We've reached the top of the tree. Okay, this is the mystical riff by the river with Leah.
And Nameh.
And I will be bringing the tarot via Nat Gersberger's Radiant Wilds Tarot.
And I'll be integrating into our reading and conversation the human design. So line 6 is, as Leo was referencing in one metaphor, at the top of the tree. So I was getting this idea of crouching tiger, hidden dragon, like how they were running across the treetop. And so in this orientation of lines 1 through 6, the 6th line is, in Ra's metaphor, the house metaphor of being on the roof. So maybe less concerned about the mundane side of life, more looking at what's next. I'm a human and I'm not going to be a human forever. Where do I go next in this trajectory of life? And because they've had their 3 segments of their life, which is the only line in the profile or in human design gate activations, where there is this looking at the 3 segments. So the first 30 years, middle of life, until something invites them off of the roof. So integrating what it was like in this 3rd line phase that you and I know, because Leah and I are both 3-5 profiles, the getting onto the roof usually happens after the Saturn return, so after navigating around age 30, where isn't that where the mental, like the true adult behavior happens, like the brain closes. I'm pointing to Leah.
We become more
neurologically
neurologically like pruned by that point. Until that point we're like so plastic in the sense of flexible in neurologically speaking, and then we get a little more honed. We prune off the excess.
Great.
You know, yeah.
I didn't know that detail.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm so glad I pointed to you.
It's fun.
So the first 30 years are in that like transmutive 3rd line experience, like we know, trial and error. That might be the messier part of a 6th line's life. And then in between Saturn return and Chiron return, that middle time of life typically is when there's that integration of what happened of those first 30 years, that maturing of like, oh, I see that puddle, where us as 3rd lines might be like, I'm falling in it again. Where the 6th line might be like, oh, I remember what it felt like to fall into that pothole or that puddle. I'm going to step around it. So there becomes this wisdom and sageness that could present to the outside world as a role model. So 6 lines are thought to be people who can support and be of service because of this range of beingness in themselves. And what I've found to be helpful when I'm in conversations with 6 lines is to say, almost like there isn't a lot on your shoulders in the category of doing. It's more from a place of being. When I'm a 6 line, or if somebody is a 6 line in their profile and they're invited to put their groceries away, they love putting away their groceries, that could be a version of them role modeling putting away the groceries. So in other words, it doesn't have to be on a stage in a big guru sort of way. In essence, it's really about, who am I as a person? How did I arrive at this place? Again, once, navigating in that trajectory of maybe more of that second half of life, that might be more where the service comes into play.
Would you say that line 6s are kind of old souls in that way?
I don't know.
Just a thought. Just
I
the
think
way
it's a
you were
great question.
describing it.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a sort of maturity and feel like a sense of having experienced and learned.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the reason why I feel a hesitancy, and I know it's okay because of our, lovely friendship, that we're not yes-anding each, or we're not, anyway.
We're not no-butting each other.
Yeah. Why am I thinking of a butt?
Because I said butt.
I said but.
I said but.
I said but. But I think it could be interesting of like, I do think that 6 lines have navigated more than one life. Like I think most of the people we interact with have had many times of being a human.
So we're all old souls in that way. Yeah.
But are 6 lines more the mature? Because this is maybe more of a deeper dive into human design. So if you want to skip forward. But the first, second, and third line profiles are all about themselves. It's like, what's my belly button look like? How much do I love my belly button? And I say belly button in the sense of it's very self-focused. Versus once we get to the top half of the lines 1 through 6, so 4, 5, and 6, they're more thought of as being of service. And so how I've heard it talked about is 3s or lines 1 through 3 maybe did their service in the previous life. And so those who come in with a 5th or a 6th profile, 4th lines or 4 ones are a little bit in a nuanced area that I don't feel super skilled at explaining, so I'm going to skip over that as opposed to giving misinformation. But 5th and 6th lines are thought of as they maybe had a bumpier, or they did their looking at their belly button previously, and now it's their time to be in the limelight, whoever they're in the limelight with.
Gotcha.
So I guess what I'm saying is, or what I was originally feeling before that riff is, I think a young soul
Yeah.
could have their version of maturity.
Yeah. I see that. And it sounds like it's sort of in cycles and depending on where you
Yeah.
are in the cycle across lifetimes.
Yes.
And tarot actually has a sort of parallel concept in the major arcana. I don't know if you've heard about the 3 lines.
This is what makes our riffing so awesome. My intuition was like, do you want to play with me? And Leah was like, hell yeah, I want to play with you. And then this happens. Please tell me what you're going to tell me.
And, you know, once again, skip ahead. If you're like, where's my reading? We get you, we hear you, we're getting to it. But so in the major arcana, you can split. So there's 22 cards technically. The Fool is the 0. So the Fool is us. It's the protagonist that's moving through the 1 through 21. But you can split the 21 cards into 3 lines of 7.
Oh.
And there's different ways people have talked about that. The first 7 being the unconscious, the second 7 being the conscious, and then the third 7 being the superconscious, and that's more that collective service. So it kind of moves towards the collective service. So I just thought it was cool that there's
so
a mirror.
much crossover.
Yeah.
Whoa. Hell yeah.
Yay!
That was cool. Look at us.
Okay, should we do this?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Line 6, thank you for your patience. And this is a reading for the month of July, 2026.
2026.
Okay, here we go. First, I'm just clearing the deck.
I know. It was in my head.
You what? For real?
Yep. Wow. I was like, how is it that we've gone through 1 through 5 and my side has repeated, but her side has not repeated?
We just pulled the death card again. So for folks who did not tune into the other cards, we pulled this for, trying to see. Do you remember?
I think 4.
Was it for 4?
Yeah, so maybe you're a 4-6 and you're getting death twice.
Wow. So if you have listened to that, you might hear some repeat things here. But for folks who are just tuning in to the line 6, death means change. Death means change. Death means change. And I say that just to try to soften any resistance or fear that might be coming up related to the word death, and some of our cultural associations with the tarot death card that you see in movies and things like that. I'm guessing if you're tuning into this, you probably already have a kind of grand sense of that. But death, there are so many kinds of death. There, yes, are the physical deaths of loved ones, obviously, is a big one that people can be afraid of when they pull this card. But there's a million other kinds of death that we can be talking about. The death of identity, the death of how you spent your time before, the death of, well, as we talked about with the fours, of illusion or certain ways of thinking that are actually have turned into obstacles for you. It is a natural part of the life cycle, and this card is inviting us to honor it, to recognize it, to grieve what has changed and what has been lost in that change in order to make space for what's coming next, for the rebirth that is approaching.
Just had a little technical difficulty.
We're down to one mic,
We're down to one mic.
so I'm going to be holding it.
Hold on. I'm just going to make sure this goes. Yeah. Goodbye. Thank you very much for your service. Seriously.
Yeah, for
Okay.
real though.
Ha-ha! Interesting. In this deck, Brenya Magnuson is putting together animal energies or being energies with the gate activation. And so this gate is gate 40, deliverance. And maybe another term that's more thought of, or that's also used with gate 40, is around aloneness. So I think that's interesting as it relates to, because this is happening all in my head, but let me fill Leah in. Mm-hmm. So gate 37, when we were talking about the family and the community, and the sensitivity to know what the other people in the family needs, this is the person who works hard, connected to that family. So this is literally connecting and creating a channel between the 37 and the 40. So these are the same people who in the channel of 4037, but the 40 side of that channel are the ones who are going to go and bust ass, do tons and tons of work, the hardest working potentially gate in the whole human design system. Yet their way that they support themselves is to take some space away. So they're using willpower to be so productive, to bring their will to provide sustenance and resources to their community. So maybe a complicated example to offer, but in the 1950s, think the TV show Mad Men, where the breadwinner, it's actually referred, the gate is sometimes referenced as the breadwinner, where they're working so hard away from the family to bring in funds and resources, but then once they get home, they want their gin and tonic and they want to be away. The way that they love, the way that they bring value and service to their family or their community is the hard work. Now, how to put 40 with death?
Well, to get there, I'm going to take a roundabout way because I'm noticing something.
Great.
Antlers. You see those antlers on both cards?
Dude, no, I hadn't before.
Yeah. So I don't know if, maybe we'll put it on the screen. The death card has a person sitting and they have what looks like either a moose or an elk skull with antlers on there. So there is this sort of full death, life, birth cycle you can see just in the two cards together. And then, I am, my little heart and brain are chugging along looking for ideas. I want to hear if something's popped for you on their connection.
Well, I'm thinking of I don't know which animal does this, and I forgot to mention, but the animal that Brenya is connecting with gate 40 is the moose. And I don't remember which animal does this, but they drop their antlers.
Right.
And so the process of death and dying whether that's a physical death and dying, or whether that's an idea or a concept or a way of presenting oneself in the world, like, I don't know, big near-death experience, like something big happens in one's life that is the catalyst that changes how the structure of how they knew themselves grew and changed. And so now I'm thinking of the 6th line. So line 6 is they're on the roof looking at what's next metaphorically, but their relational life, they need relationships that grow and evolve. So they're making this, breadwinner, capitalism framework structure. They're making all this money so that the people that they're loving and supporting through these resources can grow and evolve. So there can become a boredom or an impatience if there isn't that evolutionary trajectory within their community. And I think that change happens through some form of death and rebirth.
Yeah. I can see that. Somewhere, and where that just brought my mind too is, I mentioned this before with the 4s, but the card right after death is temperance. So death is 13 and then temperance is 14. And I see how this 40 gate and temperance feel connected in the sense of somebody who's able to sort of stand in their power and integrate their different resources in a unique way for them. And I see too on this card the words like confidence and resolute and serene, which I like. Someone in like a balanced form of temperance would be exhibiting those sorts of qualities. And so also thinking about, if we almost think of these chronologically, like the death and the releasing of what is not serving you, of those structures and thoughts, like you said, that are ready to come down to rebirth, like what is more true to you, and more of service, or more authentic, and how sort of that release, that clearing can help step us into that self-esteem of the moose. So I guess I sort of see the fact that there's sort of a moose skull on one side and then a living moose on the other is like releasing the old moose, to come into the new moose. There's new moons and then there's new moose. And so, I could also see them as being connected sort of in that way, like the grief and the process of death helping us step into the confidence of gate 40.
Well, and also I'm imagining, I've never had antlers. I don't imagine I will in this life. But to have antlers to me feels like there's a regalness. I built this, physically in an animal's being, that is the confidence, the self-esteem, the like, I created this. I was the energy that brought this forward, consciously or not.
Shed it.
Yes.
And I'm still powerful while I regrow my new set of antlers. Yes. I love that.
So next we're going to bring in some guidance and some support through Colette Baron Reed's the Spirit Animal Oracle. And
whale spirit.
Trust the great mystery. Yeah. And I guess what I get with that, which I haven't heard us, and maybe you have, Leah, is for me there's a pacing to a whale's energy that feels quite unique and zen-like. Like a 6th line maybe is less likely in the later part of their life, past their Saturn return. They're less likely to be in the hustle and the bustle and the like really moving fast, similar to a whale. Like a whale holds so much physicality. That it's gonna move at the pace that it moves. And I don't know how many predators there are for whales either. So there's something for me around that. I don't know. Whales to me feel very mystical. And the connection that I'm making with the sixth line is a sixth line I experience is very mystical as well. The looking on what's next in this human's experience of life. And where that like slow trusting and I'm losing my words, but there's something I guess embodied that I sense through whales, and maybe I'm projecting, but whales' spirit feels like there's so much knowing that maybe similar to the antlers, they're there, they've happened, but they're maybe not, like the pride of a lion like might be thought of. I don't know. There's a different tonal quality to a whale that I'm connecting with.
I learned years ago in a biology class something that I'm not sure if it still holds water, but at the time there was evidence in a theory that based on fossils that whales, whale ancestors, there was an ancestor of the whale that actually moved onto the land from the water and then eventually moved back into the water. Right. And I've always thought that was such a cool idea of like the whales were like, fuck this noise. Like I'm going back to the mystical ocean. Like I'm going back to the depths. Like that's where I want to be. Yeah. So that's something that's sticking out of like, they chose this sort of underwater magical place. And I feel like too, like the metaphor of the depths of the ocean, like there's so much around like the psyche and the unconscious and trusting, it says like trust the great mystery, this sort of like, I think death is a great mystery in a lot of ways. I mean, maybe most obviously when we lose like people we love that pass away, but in general, it's there is a mysterious quality and a mystical, magical quality to death. Being close to people who are in the dying process is a very sacred, hard experience. But there are these sort of inexplicable, mystical things that are imbued in this special gateway, into death. I also was realizing too, this is a little bit numerology nerdy, but 13 comes down, like it adds up, 1 and 3 become 4, whereas 4 and 0 also add up, become 4. And so that leads me to the Emperor card. And you had mentioned the regalness of moose, which you could also say about whales. They're just they're so powerful. But also there's because I'm seeing 2 of these 3 cards break down to the number 4, it feels like a stepping into one's power, but also knowing that you are powerful and have influence and to wield it thoughtfully. Yeah.
And I imagine, again, I'm probably projecting so much on whales because whales melt my heart in a second. I would imagine they're very discerning on how to bring their power forward, not frivolously, etc.
I would say so as well. Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Do we want to do a whale song?
How do we do a whale song? I feel like I'm in Finding Nemo.
We do. Okay. I was like, we're like Dory.
Thanks for being with us. We'll see you in August.